Bristol, England, February 2015. Literally everyone in the city is looking for a missing schoolgirl.
That's the makeup kit I want. Thanks, folks. Emily doesn't immediately notice she's missing.
You know, a 16-year-old girl, studying with friends' interests and hobbies. When news of her disappearance spread, the community reacted. After all, if it's 4 or 5 doors away from you, it obviously affects you somehow. The alarm was raised when Emily's friends came to her house. Because she didn't show up for school, her phone was switched off, and she hasn't appeared on social media or messages since the evening before. Do you know if she uses WhatsApp?
Yes.
So you and she usually communicated via text messages and FaceTime? British police in Bristol are launching their own huge operation, the largest in their history. We just have to keep going and not stop. Isn't that right? She needs to be found. She will be found because we're all gonna keep looking until we find her. The police are preparing for the worst, but in reality they can't even imagine in their worst nightmares what kind of evil they and all the residents of the city are yet to face. If you see this, contact us. Just bring her home safe and sound. If you have her, put her somewhere we can find her. Bring her home, please. On Thursday, February 20, 2015, the police receive an alarming call. David Harper reports the disappearance of his daughter, 16-year-old Emily. The girl left home in the morning and no one has seen her since. She didn't show up for class, didn't meet with friends, her phone was turned off, and her laptop was missing. My daughter is missing. No one has seen her. No, we've called everyone. Where is she? No one knows. Her name is Emily Harper. The first to sound the alarm are the girl's friends. No one has seen or met her during the day. Her phone was out of range. Emily also did not log into social networks or instant messengers, although she constantly kept in touch this way. And simply disappearing, going somewhere without telling anyone, is not her style. The guys call all their mutual acquaintances, and not finding a single trace of their friend, head to her home. There they are, met by Emily's stepmother, Angie Harper. The woman is sure that her stepdaughter left home in the morning, as usual, and has no idea that she did not show up for class, did not contact anyone, and all attempts to contact her are futile. That is, Emily literally disappeared. Very worried, she immediately calls the girl's father, as well as her son and his lover, who have long lived separately, but often visited here and came the night before, subsequently staying overnight. What if they know something? Police are becoming increasingly concerned about the teenager. Emily is 16 and was last seen at her home in Bristol. She is ratting out. Who? His girlfriend Savannah did hear Emily slam the door as she left the house on the morning of February 20, but she did not come across her face to face. Upon further investigation, it becomes clear that it was her stepmother who personally saw the missing girl last, and that was the previous morning, February 9. Then they had breakfast, chatted, Emily went about her business, and a little later Angie went to hospital for a routine checkup. The family home was the last known place she was. We are trying to find out what happened after she left the house on Thursday morning of February 9.
Seemed like the whole of Bristol had come together to find Emily, with people just arriving, joining groups of cops and locals, and searching tirelessly. We're going to see this through, no matter how hard it is. You know, we've got to. When someone goes missing, like 4 or 5 doors down from you, it obviously has an impact on you. It's really sad, and we're just trying to do the best we can, where we can. It's tragic. It's absolutely tragic. It's absolutely devastating. What else can you say? We've just got to keep going, haven't we? She's got to be found, and she will be found, because we're all gonna keep looking, until we do. The distraught father pleaded for help on the radio, fighting back tears. He can't understand how this is possible. Emily took her phone, her laptop. Her tablet was later found missing too, but her clothes, her money, her toiletries, they were all left behind in the end. I just want to find her so badly. It's mind-boggling. All her clothes are there. I haven't been able to eat or sleep since she went missing. I just need her back. Detective Mark Reynolds, who was assigned to the case, called a national media conference in the hopes of making contact with Emily, her companions in hiding, or her kidnappers. The family is not rich, so it would be naive to expect ransom demands. But if someone is holding her captive, the situation should still be publicized, in case someone has seen Emily. If you're watching this, please come home. We love you so much. You may not realize it, but you are very much loved. And if you're watching this, please come home. If someone is harboring her, do the right thing. The search also continued. However, day after day, they brought nothing, and the panic in the family began to grow. Be brave, you little girl. When the news of her disappearance spread, the community responded. A massive search was organized. Hundreds of people dropped everything, desperately looking for one of their own. If you see this, contact us. Just bring her home safe and sound. If you have her, put her where we can find her. Bring her home, please. Detectives have been investigating in parallel with the search from the very beginning, because the situation with the gadgets that the girl took with her, for some unknown reason, led them to the idea that some kind of deception was taking place. Since it is simply illogical, you leave home and do not take money, clothes, but for some reason you take all this and do not use. Let's say the fugitive decided to simply sell them from her hands to get money. But then again, why did she not take her own with her? What kind of bizarre schemes? The search continued, but day after day, they brought nothing, and the panic in the family grew stronger. David Harper goes on the radio, barely holding back tears. He does not understand how this is possible. Emily took her phone, her laptop. We later discovered that her tablet was missing, but her clothes, money, personal hygiene products, everything was left at home. I just want to find her. It's unbelievable. All her clothes are there. I haven't been able to eat or sleep since she went missing. I just need her back. Detective Mark Reynolds, who is leading the case, gathers the national media for a press conference. He hopes to establish contact with Emily, her companions on the run, or her kidnappers. The family is not rich, so it would be naive to expect ransom demands. But if someone is holding her captive, the situation should still be made public. Emily, if you're watching this, please come home. We love you so much. You may not realize it, but you are truly loved. If someone is harboring her, do the right thing. The search continued, but day after day, there were no results. The panic in the family grew. Be brave, you're a little girl, David whispered. When the news of Emily's disappearance spread, the community responded immediately. A large-scale search was organized. Hundreds of people dropped everything, desperately looking for one of their own. The detectives conducted the investigation in parallel with the search from the very beginning. They were alarmed by the situation with the gadgets. The girl took the phone, laptop, and tablet, but did not take money, clothes, or even personal belongings. It seemed illogical. Let's say the fugitive could have sold the equipment to get funds, but then why didn't she take her own things with her? It all looked like a strange and artificial scheme. The first thing the investigators did was to interview people close to Emily. They also checked the family, its history, and possible conflicts. David Harper divorced his daughter's mother when she was very young. Soon he met Angie, and their relationship quickly developed into a civil marriage. In fact, Angie raised her stepdaughter from the age of 3, because although Emily had a mother, the girl lived with her father most of the time. Angie had her own son, Nick Matthews. He stayed to live with his grandmother because, as a teenager, he did not want to move. David and Angie officially got married only in 2013. Nick became the best man, and his girlfriend Savannah and half-sister Key were bridesmaids. The detectives didn't find any dark background in the family history. Everything looked like everyone else's. Another important part of the investigation was talking to everyone who knew Emily well. The detectives tried to conduct the interviews in such a way that no one felt accused. The goal was to gather as much information as possible, which meant people were speaking freely and casually. Do you know if she uses WhatsApp? Yes, we usually communicated via text messages. Savannah recalled. I heard the door. I thought it was Emily coming out. I assumed she was gone. The most important thing was to understand when exactly Emily went missing. No one had seen her on February 20th. They had only heard the door slam. The last person in the family who had direct contact with the girl was Angie on the morning of February 19th. There was a day between these moments, and in missing persons cases, such 24 hours can be crucial. While checking the family's alibi for the day of her disappearance, the police discovered that Nick and his girlfriend Savannah had been at Angie and David's house on the morning of February 20th. Can you tell me your full name? Savannah Stacy Charmaine Howard. Okay, I'll write that down. Nick Charles Matthews. Can I call you Nick? Yes. They were considered the key witnesses in the case. They claimed that Savannah heard the door slam. The beauty of separate interrogations is that suspects don't know what their partner is saying in the other room. The detectives didn't expect to get a confession right away. They asked various seemingly simple questions in order to find inconsistencies later. According to Savannah, Nick was in a lot of pain right now. And what did the guy say? How would you describe your relationship with Emily? I don't really talk to her, but I obviously don't like her very much. And of course the way she sometimes talks to my mom irritates me. She can be rude or something. I'm trying to think of a specific case. It was an unexpected revelation. Why would a man whose sister had disappeared say he didn't love her? Detectives knew that criminals often use a technique they honestly admit to dislike in order to gain trust, but at the same time claim that they didn't lay a finger on her. Did you hurt her? No, I didn't hurt her. Do you know if she's alive? No. Meanwhile, the forensic experts returned with the first results. The fingerprints in the blood belonged to Nick Matthews. It would take another 12 hours for DNA testing to show whose blood it was. If it was Emily's blood, Nick would be arrested immediately. If it was his own, the situation would be complicated. He was often in the house and could have left traces by accident. The interrogations continued. The suspects were questioned carefully, without revealing what evidence the investigation had. Were you upstairs in the house during the time your mum didn't get home? Thursday, I'd say no. No. Most of the time. Well, it was a tried and tested technique. Keep the suspect scratching his head. What exactly had the police found? And what would he now have to explain? Nick and Savannah left the station not calm, but in deep thought about how close they were to failure. Waiting for those 12 hours seemed like an eternity, but finally the results came. It was Emily's blood. The arrest team left immediately and found the couple in their home in suburban Bristol. The moment of arrest was recorded on camera. Nick Matthews, we're here to arrest you. Okay, what do I have to do? Just put your hands like this. The police still hoped that Emily was alive and carefully planned their questions to the suspects. There were many traces of blood, and the investigation suggested everything from a simple cut to serious injuries. Nick had obviously washed everything else, but he hadn't noticed any stains on the door frame. Was there anything in the house that made you uneasy? No. Did you hear the door slam? Yes, but I was still doing my business. When I came back to the living room, he was sitting on the couch. I think he was playing on his tablet. The detectives had been cautious before, but now their questions were becoming more pointed. Do you have any suspicions that Nick or anyone in your extended family might be involved in Emily's disappearance? No. No. How can you be so sure? Because none of them would do such a thing. Savannah tried to answer convincingly, but there was too much practiced confidence in her words. Now the questions for the suspects became even harsher. Do you have any suspicions that Nick or anyone in your extended family might be responsible for Emily's disappearance. No, no. How can you be so sure? Because none of them would do such a thing. Savannah tried to sound convincing, sometimes even too confident, but her behavior seemed overdone. Was there anything about this house that made you uneasy? No. Or anything strange that you noticed? No. I was in the kitchen when I heard the door slam. I continued with my business. When I returned to the living room, Nick was just sitting on the couch. I think he was playing on his tablet. Nick turned out to be a more complex person. Detective Mark Reynolds quickly realized he needed to give him a sense of control, relax, and at the right moment, pull the rug out from under his feet. Were you home when Emily left? Yes. What can you tell us about her disappearance? What do you mean? I don't know where she is. We want to find her, but I don't know where she is. Is she safe? I don't know. His answers were confusing. He denied everything, but at the same time he didn't seem genuinely concerned. The police continued their investigation and moved on to search Nick and Savannah's house. Hello. Police. They were hoping to find evidence. The house was cluttered. The front door was partially blocked by refrigerators and other junk, as if on purpose to make it difficult to get in. Every room was piled high with stuff. The search party didn't even immediately realize that there was a toilet under the stairs. The door was hidden behind a pile of stuff. There was no sign that Emily had ever been there. But there was a corner on the second floor that stood out, the bathroom. The whole house looked like a dump, but the bathroom was strangely clean, shiny from a recent cleaning. It immediately caught Mark Reynolds' eye. The investigation took a truly dark turn, but the hardest moment came when Detective Mark Reynolds was forced to tell David Harper and his wife Angie that this was no longer a missing person or kidnapping case. Now it was about investigating Emily's murder and Nick and Savannah's involvement in it. The family's world collapsed overnight. David did not want to believe it, but at the same time he wanted to get even with the man he considered a son. Angie seemed to be in a stupor. It was a triple blow for her. Technically she was Emily's stepmother, but in reality she had raised her from an early age and loved her like a daughter. In all the photos, the girl was hugging Angie tightly. In one moment, the woman lost her daughter and son, and had to realize that one of her children had probably taken the life of another. We can't say where she is now. We are still looking for Emily, but we have enough grounds and information to keep these people in custody, the police said. Nick Matthews, 28, and Savannah Howard, 21, were arrested on suspicion of Emily Harper's murder. Even at this point, police were hiding some of the evidence they had found, such as a receipt for a circular saw. But investigators increased the pressure, hinting to Nick that his house would be subjected to a forensic examination. After his arrest, Nick knew that the situation was rapidly deteriorating. He felt that while he was sitting within four walls, the police were accumulating more and more evidence. Eventually he was pushed to the point where there was no point in denying it. There was only one option left: to confess. At 10:26 p.m. on the 11th day of the investigation, Nick submitted a statement through his solicitor. I, Nick Charles Matthews, admit to being responsible for the death of Emily Harper on 19th February 20. I drove to Crown Hill, St. George, Bristol with my girlfriend, Savannah Howard. In my car I had a large bag, handcuffs, tape and a mask. I had devised a plan to scare Emily by kidnapping her. I wanted to teach her a lesson, and teach her a lesson. I thought she was selfish, and her behavior was damaging my mother's health. A few minutes after Savannah arrived, she said she wanted a smoke and went out into the garden. I went to the trunk of the car, got out my bag of things and went up to the second floor. I knocked on Emily's door. she answered. I said, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" I can't remember the exact order of events, but I used everything I had on me to subdue her. During the short struggle, my mask slipped, and Emily was able to see my face. This caused me to panic. I strangled her, while she was already partially in the bag. When Angie was asked if she believed it was an accident, she replied, "No, I think he did it on purpose." Detectives also knew that there was truth in the statement, but Nick had embellished a lot. He claimed that he wanted to teach his sister a lesson, but in reality he had committed murder. Nick admitted that he had used a circular saw to dismember Emily's body in the bathroom. He had wrapped the remains in plastic, bags and boxes, and then hidden them in a friend's shed just a few hundred yards from his home. After 12 days of searching, the private ambulance left the scene of the gruesome discovery. Emily's remains had been discovered in the sheds of Bristol the previous night. For the family, it was a blow they had been preparing for, but dreaded more than anything else. David Harper had to go through an identification procedure. Although the pathologist had done everything to hide the saw marks, the man could still see the line along which Nick had decapitated his daughter. The day after the discovery, detectives returned to question her again. "Yesterday, Nick, you kindly gave us a rather lengthy written statement through your lawyer. We read it, but such statements rarely contain the whole truth. For example, you clearly excluded Savannah from your story. According to you, not only did she not participate in the crime, but she did not even know about it. We have to investigate the entire crime. And of course, while you are giving an interview, Savannah is talking to us." The detective noted. "I know, but I do not want to talk about Savannah," answered Nick. The more the police tried to get him to talk, the more it looked like a pre-rehearsed script. It was obvious that he and Savannah had agreed on what and how they would tell it. If they both failed to come out clean, then one would take all the blame. "What do you know about your guilt in Emily's death?" "I only found out about it yesterday morning. Until then, I did not realize that I was involved." The detectives went back to the details. "Tell me, how did you come up with the idea to kidnap Emily?" "I don't know. Maybe I saw something on TV or dreamed it. The idea came to me to scare her, so that she would appreciate life more and be more grateful." Nick confessed. "I was going to put her in a suitcase, tape her mouth shut, take her somewhere in the woods and leave her there. I wanted her to be scared and come home different, more grateful and less self-centered." Even in these words, he tried to present himself not as a murderer, but as a person who wanted to teach a lesson. But it became clear, this does not coincide with reality. Has he ever said that he wanted to kidnap someone? "Maybe you saw that he was looking for such signs," the detectives asked Savannah. "No, he never mentioned anything like that," she answered. Her words sounded like she was trying to deflect suspicion, but at the same time she was too careful to say too much. Nick continued to explain his motives. "I thought that if I could scare her without causing harm, and then release her, she would come home a different person, more grateful and respectful of people." But to the investigators, this sounded like a pathetic attempt to justify herself. The crime was too brutal to talk about education. "Did he ever say that he wanted to kidnap someone? Maybe you saw that he was interested in such things on the internet?" The detectives asked Savannah again. "I have no idea. He never said anything about it," she answered. The detectives clarified. "Why, Emily? I know that they didn't really like each other, but I wouldn't say that they hated each other. Yeah, I didn't always like Emily, but she was a nice enough girl. She was so young," Savannah said. Savannah was lying coldly and calculatingly. "How immobilized was she then?" the investigators asked. "No comment." "Was she conscious when you choked her?" "No comment." The detectives knew she was involved, but she was trying to deny it. She was sure she had left no trace. However, proving her involvement was still difficult. Nick was formally charged with Emily's murder and remanded in custody pending trial. By law, after an arrest, the police have only 24 hours to charge or release a suspect. Mark Reynolds' team was given more time, but that time ran out. The detectives still couldn't directly connect Savannah to the crime, but they knew she needed to be held. To do this, they used numerous interviews where the girl repeatedly and desperately lied. She was accused of obstructing justice. All the couple's phones and computers were carefully examined. The devices were sent to a lab for DNA testing. Suddenly, the specialist checking the equipment reported that they managed to restore a whole series of deleted messages from Savannah's phone. Moreover, the history of internet search queries revealed the true motives of the two. It turned out that Nick and Savannah were interested in films with girls the same age as Emily. In the messages, they discussed ideas related to the kidnapping and detention of teenagers. This data showed that the crime was not an accident, but was carefully fueled by their perverted fantasies.